this world from the depths of the system's greed. As a man I've seen the trials of those that lost themselves between these lines of fault, laid by those working so damn hard to control us all. Try to break our minds with their sad news on the TV all the time. Still we sip the wine. We're wasting life and failing to realize that we're enslaved, kept oppressed by mental shackles and subliminal chains. We cry in vain, forced to grow in a broken world where criminals reign. Won't you help us now? We keep telling ourselves that everything's working out, but we're breaking down. Inside our souls are crumbling to the sound of emptiness as we stand here waiting at the edge of the abyss. All my family and friends, they got us choked up, lined up and fooled with their bag of tricks, and still they feed us trash. They're selling cigarettes just to bury us in the ash, and we're growing old, living lives fabricated from the bones of a dying world. From the bones of a dying world. Say you can be a star, get a job, work hard, man, you can drive that fancy car, take all the pills you want. If Doc says it's okay, man, how can you be wrong? Let's have another shot. We'll drink ourselves stupid and head on out to the lot. Go on, drive the car. And our doped up minds got us thinking we ain't far from home. They got us thinking we ain't far from home. Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what they want. Emptiness to consume us in the depths of the abyss. All my family and friends, they got us doped up, lined up and ready with the perfect. And still they feed us trash. They're selling cigarettes just to bury us in the ash, and we're growing old, living lives fabricated from the bones of a dying world. From the bones of a dying world, yeah, yeah, they feed us trash. They're selling cigarettes just to bury us in the ash, and we're growing old, living lives fabricated from the bones of a dying world. But now you've heard a man say I don't give. Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like it's 1948 all over again. Seems like we've been in this Cold War for a while now. It's just now it's come out in the forefront that we are, in fact, in a new Cold War with China. All right. Good evening and aloha, mahanapano. How you doing, Murphy? How we doing, Brian? So we have a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and it is very hard to keep up with all of it. I like to approach world events like I guess I did with how when I used to work. Uh, I wanted to be a jack of all trades, right? I wanted to try a little bit of something, a little bit of everything. I didn't want to get stuck in one job. So I've done a little bit of everything. So I'm a jack of all trades, but I'm a master of none. And when it's the same way I approach subjects, I could either be a master in one subject or know a great deal about all subjects and be a master of none. However, I'm starting to lose track of all the stuff that is going on in this world. Like it is astounding to me that the Pentagon, not 2 weeks ago, basically confirmed that UFOs exist. They're real, right? We're no longer alone. Nobody bats an eyelash at that now. That 6 months ago, you're talking about it would have been everybody would have been talking about it. Everybody would have been buzzing about it. But today, it's just so hard to keep up with all of these things that just keep getting thrown at us left and right. It's like these memes that they're coming out with where, you know, it says 2020, oh God, this is the worst year yet. And the next month it has like an asteroid coming or, something. So we're going to get in tonight one of these subjects, which is called the Cold War, which will eventually lead to a war. I don't think it's going to last 30 years, and I don't think it's going to end with the fall of China. I think that this Cold War will turn very, very quickly in the grand scheme of time into a war. And when the world's largest economy goes to war against the world's second largest economy, we're dragging the whole world with us. It's not going to just be a war between us and China. But the Cold War is important. It's an important aspect and it's an important subject. If you're not fully aware of the Cold War, uh, it was a very long ordeal. It was about 40 years of fear porn in this nation, uh, where children very regularly learned how to get underneath their desks in the event of an atomic bomb or a nuclear bomb blowing up. You see, we had this fear that the Russians were going to nuke us. And see, the Russians had the fear that we were going to nuke them. And the only reason why we didn't do it is because if one person pushed the button where everybody pushes the button, nobody makes it. That's why they call it mutually assured destruction. It's the only reason why we haven't had a nuclear war yet is because we have too many countries that have it. But it only takes one asshole to push that one button, and that's it. So the Cold War, I guess it pretty much started in Germany, right? Into the of the Second World War. You see, Russia got to Berlin first. They did some pretty dirty shit there too. They looted a lot of shit. They raped a lot of women, killed a lot of children. They did a lot of bad things. And then we got there second. Of course, when we got there, they cut that shit out. They probably cut it out before we got there. And then we divided that country into two parts. And a lot of people don't know that history today, especially younger people. We had this thing called the Berlin Wall, and you said you had Eastern Germany and you had Western Germany, and one half of Germany was influenced by, guess who? America. This is very similar to what is known as Korea, right? So the South is the puppet of America, and the North is the puppet of China. So, but in the same way, in 1945, I believe it was the East that was influenced by Russia, and it was the West that was influenced by America. I could be wrong, could be flip flop, but regardless, Russia was on one side and China and America was on the other, and it started there. And so the Cold War with China probably started when Trump got into office. Truthfully, when we started talking all this heavy lingo towards China, and we started a trade war. Now, I don't know if you know this, and this isn't true for every single war, but more often than not, when you start a trade war with a country, a war follows, more likely than not, more times than not. If you have a trade war with a country, war follows not too long after that. It doesn't matter if you settle that dispute. And the way Trump and our administration has been shifting their tone towards China, the way China has been shifting its tone towards us, I believe that the first battle between us and them is going to be a naval battle. It's going to be probably more of a Navy war than it is an Army war, because we're competing navies. We're going to look at some articles here, and let me pull this up. You guys like my Chewbacca? So we're going to look at this first one here. All right. Let's go to big screen. And this is a tweet from the U.S. Navy CNO. So it's very interesting that he tweeted this. It's all about optics. It's all about showing that oomph that, hey, America, we've got a badass Navy. So it says that the U.S. Navy has 6 carriers underway right now. The Truman, the Eisenhower, the Reagan, the Nimitz, the Lincoln, and Ford are all operating where ships belong, at sea. We are a hashtag force to be reckoned with. U.S. Pacific Fleet. Now, that's very important that it's the Pacific Fleet, not the Atlantic. Because what's in the Pacific? Well, that's China. That's Russia. But it's mainly China. Let's go ahead and close that. So we're going to go to this one right here. Now, this was in May 20th, 2019. Now, I don't know if this is true anymore. I think it's closer to the tally. They still have more warships than us. But honestly, when it comes to betting against navies, look, we got a badass Navy. I'm sorry. I will call it down the middle when it comes to America's military. I believe that our Army is weak. We have weak-willed soldiers filled in the military. Not everybody, but if you're in the military and you see this, you probably know what I'm talking about, unless you're one of those weak-willed people. Then you'll probably disagree with me. Now, Marines have always been the Marines, one of the most badass forces on the planet. We got a great Air Force. We got a phenomenal. We have air superiority because not only do we have a phenomenal Air Force, but our Navy, when I'm telling you we got a badass Navy, our Navy has more jet planes than the Air Force has. So we have twice the amount of Air Force as pretty much everybody else. We have absolute air supremacy. We also have naval supremacy. And when you have 2 of the 3 things that you need to fight a war, you usually end up winning. And we don't have ground troop supremacy, but what we do have is electronic supremacy in terms of how we fight wars. We're more sophisticated and we don't need as many men. So, but one EMP to wipe us out. But anyway, let's read this real quick. We're just going to read a little bit of it. This is back in 2019. So China now has more warships than the U.S. Navy. The People's Libertarian Army Navy plan, informally known as the Chinese Navy, recently hit a landmark number of 300 ships, 13 more than the U.S. Navy. Like I said, I think that's probably closer to 5 or 6 more. Although admittedly imposing, the number doesn't tell the whole story. America's fleet is much larger on a ship by ship basis, including the 11 nuclear powered aircraft carriers and an almost equal number of amphibious assault ships. The Center for Strategic International Studies China Power Project has uploaded analysis of the plan versus the navies of several other regional countries and major powers. At 300 warship hulls, the plan is the largest navy in the world, counting aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, corvettes, submarines, and amphibious assault ships. Again, the Navy's not at this anymore. I think it's closer to 300. The Navy trails at 287, Russia at 83. And like I said earlier, it's mainly China. Russia's in the Pacific too, but the UK has 75 and Australia has 48. So that's just kind of an idea of what we're working with here. Is we have had a lot of movement in the Pacific recently, not just with us, not just with China. We've had China sink a couple of Vietnamese fishing boats, I believe, too. Taiwan and Australia have been kind of pointing their guns towards China. They're getting a little ticked off. Look, the sentiment with China right now is the worst it's been in 40 years. The world sentiment right now is basically, if any one country declared war on China, at worst they would turn an eye to the war. They wouldn't help China at all. That's not many people in this world like China because they blame them for the virus because it originated from there. And some people say it was created there, but we won't know. Not for a long time. Hey, French. So China started moving its fleet into the open Pacific a few weeks ago. We're gonna look at that article in a second. And what that means is I've said in earlier streams, and I've commented on Fringe's stream, on a bunch of different streams when we get in the subject about China and the naval fleet and martial law and moving all these troops to our coastal cities. I started getting the idea that we were going to be invaded, or at the very least, we needed to be prepared for the possibility of being invaded, because the only way to invade us is to get through our Navy. And if you get through our Navy, well, then it's open waters, right? So all these tanks, these M1 Abrams that we were moving a few months ago, you don't use those for martial law. They make no sense. They're not even like scary like that. You can't target people with it. It's not that fast. You can outrun one of those tanks, down an alley or something like that. So, but we also sent a huge chunk of our Navy down to the Caribbean for a war on drugs, right? When have we ever sent the U.S. Navy to go intercept drug traffickers? When? Never. What is in the Caribbean that is important? What is in the Caribbean that is the most vital trading point for us in the world? It's this little thing called the Panama Canal. That's what's in the Caribbean. So is Venezuela, and we have ships off the coast of Venezuela. We have ships encircling the Panama Canal. You go to Dev Intel on Twitter or find their website. They'll show you the tracking of these ships and these airplanes, right? And they don't track all of them because some of them are classified, but you see they're basically just doing circles around the Panama Canal. On one side, you got U.S. Navy doing this half circle. On the other side, on our side, we have it, and we have airplanes going around almost 24/7. Here's the thing, is that guess who owns about 70 to 80% of the businesses inside of the Panama Canal? The companies that run the shipping ports, the ones that move it, China. China owns a predominant amount of the shipping companies in the Panama Canal. They have put anywhere from 500 billion to $1 trillion, probably more, into our stock market. They own 38% of our farmlands. They own a good 30 to 40% of our meat productions, to include Smithfield. So in a lot of ways, they have us by the balls, but at the same time, we have them by the balls. It's one of those Mexican stare downs, right? Where it's like, whoever pulls first, it doesn't matter. You're so close, you'll shoot each other. No one's going to get the first shot off and walk away unscathed. So China could shut down our country like that without firing a bullet. They could shut down our stock market. They could close all of our meat plants to create famine and create hunger. But here's the thing. As much as we need China, China needs us. Because we are, in fact, still the world reserve currency. And so long as they sell oil in the petrodollar, and so long as we have the number one military in the world and the number one economy in the world, which you can count that one goodbye, we no longer have, we didn't have it to begin with. We had the illusion of it. And the only reason why we were number one was because of the petrodollar. So if they wanted to, they could cripple us. But the moment they cripple us, they cripple themselves, because we're their biggest buyer. And if America falls, like legit falls like that, you're talking about a domino effect of a global collapse faster than what we're seeing now. So China has more to lose than it does to gain. However, there is always that point where you no longer care about the consequences. The Chinese are very prideful people, just like Americans, only their pride is slightly different. I'm going to play for you a clip. Now, this came out in 2010. Tell me if you have seen this clip. This clip is entitled Chinese Professor. And while I don't think it's predictive programming, who knows? Just pay attention to this.
为什么强大的国家都会走向灭亡呢？古希腊、罗马帝国、不列颠帝国、美国，因为他们都犯同样的错误，与原来使得他们成功的原则背道而驰。美国政府企图以庞大的开支和税收来摆脱严重的经济衰退，巨额的所谓刺激开支。 庞大的医疗改革，政府接管私有企业，债务累累。当然，我们是他们的大债主。现在他们都得给我们干活。
You can change the.
You think that isn't a possible reality? You've got another thing coming. That was in 2010. How much of that has come true? I mean, it just intensified, right? Well, it said that we had a healthcare debacle. Hello. Crushing debt. We put $1 trillion on the national debt in 28 days. 28 days, folks. Even if you don't understand math, you don't understand the exponential, rate that we have increased our spending. If you understand none of that, just think that if you took $1 trillion physical dollars, you're talking about 2 to 3 times the height of the Empire State Building. That's how much $1 trillion is. It's that much money physically. We printed that much. We spent that much in 28 days. That's crazy. So again, we've got all of these things coming at us at once. We have inflation, we have food shortages, both artificial and natural. We have wars and rumors of wars. Of course, Saudi Arabia is still bombing the shit out of Yemen. The Syria civil war has been going on for the better part of a decade. And most people, you say that like, well, where's Syria? Is that a country? Like, we don't know. And most people have no clue about Saudi Arabia bombing Yemen because that's a part of the petrodollar deal. See, we provide Saudi Arabia with arms, we provide them with ammunition, we provide them with training, and we provide them with guidance. In any war that they choose to fight, we will turn a blind eye because they continue to sell oil in the US dollar. All right, so we're going to look at this next one here. All right. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier about sending warships into the Caribbean. So it says, why is the U.S. sending Navy warships to thwart drug smugglers? Although described as a strategy to keep traffickers from exploiting the coronavirus pandemic, yeah, right. The U.S. Navy's recent deployment of warships to the Caribbean was a long time in the making and is a huge show of firepower to catch cocaine smugglers. Now, I'm going to say that again. I'm going to try to do it with a straight face, and you tell me if people are dumb enough to buy this literal piece of bullshit in the first paragraph. Was a long time in the making and is a huge show of firepower to catch cocaine smugglers. We're going to send destroyers and frigates and an aircraft carrier to deal with cocaine smugglers. Okay. Well, you can buy that if you want to. We're not there for that. The top U.S. matter of fact, look, we help these motherfuckers bring it into the country. Look, the CIA works with these drug cartels in South America, and they help smuggle guns in and drugs out and drugs in and guns out. They've got busted doing it quite a few times. They got busted during the Obama administration. Look, they have just as much to gain as the cartels do by having it come in because it allows them to look like heroes. It allows them to make money on the side. Look, power will corrupt any human being eventually. It just takes time. So, all right, I think I'm done with this page. Just one, because we touched on that. Now here, this one here is what I was talking about. We started noticing that China was sending its aircraft carrier into the open Pacific. So this is the Chinese aircraft sails in the Pacific as state media mocks U.S. Navy's coronavirus troubles. And see, that was another big thing that, look, whether you agree or disagree with why they fired that captain of that ship, they didn't fire him because he wrote these letters out to people about his crew being sick. It wasn't because he did that in and of itself. It's because he did that during a time when we're about to get some saber rattling going on with China in the seas. And all that did was make us look weak. And China has been looking for a moment during this coronavirus to look weak. Maybe that has a lot to do with why Trump goes on, or he went on every day, putting on this bullshit bravado that everything is okay and we're strong. Maybe in a way that was to show the optics to China that we weren't weak. But see, I think they know that now. No, that doesn't mean we're defeatable, but we do have a couple of aircrafts, a couple of ships that are out of commission right now because of the coronavirus. And that's not something you want your enemies to know. So let's get into this. China's first aircraft carrier has sailed near disputed waters in the Pacific Ocean as the country's state-run media praised the country's military response to the novel coronavirus, while it appeared to mock the United States' struggle with it. The plan's senior chief Gao Ziqiang confirmed Monday that the Chinese Type 001 aircraft carrier Liaoning and its 5 accompanying warships had transited the Miyako Strait between Japan's Ryukyu Islands and the Bashi Channel between east of Taiwan towards the South China Sea as a part of routine training maneuvers that kept both Tokyo and Taipei on edge over the weekend. The Japanese Defense Ministry said Saturday that it was monitoring the Chinese maritime movements and its Chinese counterpart as they scrambles down. Look, they're also moving way into like the borders of other different countries, like in the Vietnam and Malaysia and all that area, they're starting to push into not international waters, but like sovereign waters, and they're getting closer and closer. So China's getting ready to make its move, and make no mistake, China is in the best position, believe it or not, in the world. Their economy took a hit. It's going to take them a long time to recover. However, they produce everything. The only way to get out of an economic disaster is to produce your way out of it, is to create jobs by at the same time providing a product for the world so that you can get paid for that product. That's how you prosper. That's how we prospered in the getting out of the Great Depression. Not only did we do that, but they taxed the shit out of us. Like they raised taxes during the Great Depression to get us out of debt. Not only that, but on top of that, the government had the balls to say, not only are we going to raise your taxes, but we're going to issue these war bonds that you're going to buy so that we can fund this war and so that we can win. And so through a combination of production and higher taxes, that's how we got out of that. It wasn't just the war. It was a lot more than that. So China is in a good position, at least in terms of its economy. It took a massive hit. It's taken a massive hit now because in the beginning of this outbreak, we had where China shut down and everything that it was producing, it stopped producing. So therefore, that initial supply shock started happening and that supply chain started corroding. Well, the moment they finally got back up and running, and maybe at 20 or 30%, was the exact same moment the rest of the world shut down. So that when China started firing up its factories again, there was nobody to buy the product anyway, because all supply lines have been halted. There's no supply going on. There's no tankers going to and from nations dropping off cargo anymore. That's not happening. And so everybody is suffering from this. But make no mistake, China is in one of the best positions. They are at the top of this pile of shit. We're more towards the bottom. And guess who created that pile of shit? Mainly us. I'm going to light this cigarette. All right, so we're going to look at one more article. And then I think I'll be done, at least in terms of blabbing about this Cold War, where I'm at. Okay. So now this is the last little bit of thing. And see, you don't hear about all of the things that goes on in these seas. These skirmishes happen all the time. Prior military, I can tell you. Look, I can't tell you how many times we almost went to war with North Korea when I was in South Korea. With 3 separate times, we almost pulled the trigger. They almost pulled the trigger. You guys know nothing about that. You'll never know nothing about that. It's probably happened 1,000 times since. It's just the way the world is. For everything that gets put out, there's about a dozen things that doesn't. We almost went to war with Russia about 2 years ago because of a Navy thing that happened where they got a misreading about a possible missile being in the air, and they were told by their command to go ahead and fire theirs. And this commanding officer hesitated. He's like, I don't know, because if I do this, it'll start a war. And they waited a few more minutes, and then come to find out it was a false whatever on the radar. But see, stuff like that happens all the time. It would scare the shit out of you if you knew how often we are on the brink of a war starting. So, of course, it's more of this he said, she said, because China's military said that it expelled a U.S. Navy vessel from a hotly contested waters in South China Sea, and then the U.S. officials disputed the account. So, but the thing is that whether or not they expelled them or not, there was an altercation that happened, and that's the important part. We've also been doing a lot of saber rattling with Iran. There's been leaked documents now and leaked evidence coming out about a coup attempt in Venezuela that failed, right? And about how we were going to sweep in there and take out that president, kidnap him. And I think that's why a part of our Navy is in the Caribbean is because of Venezuela and that president. You see, we installed a puppet president in that country. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know the details. The guy that they're after now, the former president, who's still the president, pretty much starved that president out. He like surrounded his house, and like their power was cut out and shit like that. I think he just basically just gave up. You know, it failed. So, but the things that come with the Cold War, you're going to start seeing a lot more tension build up. You're going to see more and more fear being pumped into the mainstream media. Look, if you even still watch it, most of us don't anymore. I don't watch it at all. I don't have cable. I haven't watched news, and I haven't watched TV in a very long time. And I tell you what, that had a lot to do with my awakening when I just got stopped. When you stop willfully receiving a constant bombardment of fear porn and hate this nation and be afraid of these people. Fear, 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 fear. That's all they teach us in this country. Anyway, so Brian says that the meat processing plants here have reopened. Our shelves are back to being stocked with meats again. Thanks. So I think that's good. The problem is your problems aren't over with. Even if the plants are opened now, because our government's been buying pigs and cows and chickens by the millions just to euthanize them, just to kill them. That soon there's not going to be meat to go to a plant for it to be processed. And then here comes that second wave of economic, boom, where everything starts to implode even further. So, all right. Murphy says meat is coming from another country. Local here, a chicken company goes from town to town offering like 45 ounces a week. That's not bad. So, well, how you doing, Mark? He says ships, that is, submarines are probably underwater. Probably. I mean, not what a submarine is, but they can be above. There's actually a hybrid. We have hybrid submarines. We're not the only ones, but we have hybrid submarines that function on the surface and can submerge. It's kind of like a destroyer and a submarine put together, smaller than a destroyer, but nuclear powered and badass. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're headed to a war with China? Because look, it's only a matter of time. I believe this could be one indicating factor, and it's maybe something that a lot of people don't think of, is that perhaps Trump is going to look so bad because of his response to this virus. Even if the guy is innocent in half of the shit that everybody accuses him of, that doesn't matter. You see, it never matters whether or not you're innocent or guilty. What matters is what the people think of you. When you're in a mob, you're surrounded by people, and everybody thinks you're guilty. It doesn't matter if you're innocent. You will be guilty to the masses. So in the same way, even, the only people that won't be in that group will be the diehard Trump cultists. But he will look so bad because of this, because everything he has said on record is just blown up in his face. The number of deaths, the way he responded. So it might get to a point where he looks so bad that he has to up his pressure on making China look worse, and might inevitably start a war based off of tweets of insulting the president of China, insulting the people, insulting them. Or he could just pull the trigger himself. But I would not put it past the ego of this individual, regardless of what his job is. He just happens to be president. I'm talking to him as a person. as the person that he portrays himself to be on a consistent basis. And that is very egotistical. It wouldn't surprise me if someone like that would start a war over a tweet. In fact, I think he's going to be the first and only president in the human history that started a war over a tweet. Mark my words. But I think this war will be a Navy war. It'll be like the War of 1812 was a Navy war. It was very few battles were fought with Britain in the War of 1812. One of the only few battles that were fought was when they marched right up to the White House and burned it to the ground. So, and the only reason why we won the War of 1812 is because Napoleon was kicking their ass at the same time, and we were small fish. We they didn't care about us. So, yeah. So look, I haven't gotten too much into this Flynn case, this General Michael Flynn. I'm really confused on who's on whose side. I understand the situation in of itself, that he, had basically pled guilty to something. I don't know what this something is yet, but he pled guilty to something, and then all of a sudden, all the charges get dropped against him anyway, which is very unheard of. Does not happen. And given that Michael Flynn is in a position that he is in, which is a very powerful position, make no mistake, you don't get in that position and you don't stay in that position without making powerful friends, very powerful friends. So all I can say about the matter, who sides on what, I'll read into it and maybe at a later date. Make no mistake that he made those charges go away through his influence. And it probably took one phone call. So that reminds me of now, I think the last president that we had that was respected, it doesn't matter if he was liked, that was respected, was Ronald Reagan. Here's an interesting story about the power of what the president holds. And this is why I try to get people to understand, people that are diehard Trump fans, to understand this, how powerful the position he is in. You see, everyday person, we understand that the president of the United States is the leader of America. He makes all these decisions. He signs all these bills and blah, 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 blah. But you don't understand the power he wields. So when Reagan was president, there was an incident with a hijacking of an airplane or something along those lines. And they were flying to, I don't remember the country specifically, but I think it was Turkey, but let's just say it was Turkey. If it's not Turkey, I'm sorry. But this plane was going to land in Turkey, and it either had hijackers on it or somebody that our government wanted, something along those lines. And Ronald Reagan picked up the phone and he called, and this is what happened. He called the prime minister or the president of Turkey, and he said, "Hi, blah, blah, blah. This is President Reagan. There's a plane so-and-so that's going to be wanting to land in your airstrip. You're going to deny them and reroute them to this country." And he hung up the phone, and they did it. So he didn't wait for a response. He didn't have dialogue. He told another president what he was going to do, and he did it. Because that's how much power a president has. And a president only has as much power as the country that backs him. How powerful that country is. And look, we might be slobs and lazy and complacent and dumbed down. We spend more on military than the next 13 countries combined on military every year. If we cut our spending in half, we would still outspend the next 7 countries combined. That's how much money we dump into our military every year. So make no mistake, even if the citizenry isn't what it used to be, and even in my personal opinion, your average army soldier isn't what it used to be, our technology and our firepower and our overall training has never went away, and it's intensified. And Trump is not lying when he said he's built the military back up. He has. Did the same thing that Reagan did. So, oh, and they also said that now you can't join the military if you've ever had COVID-19. Ever. What do they know that we don't? I mean, if it's just flu, and if it's something that once you get it, right, you develop antibodies and you become immune to it, right? So why would they ban you? Because those are the people you would want, the people that have already had it, the people that have an immunity, the people that probably won't get it again. You know, why are they banning that? That doesn't make any sense. Something doesn't add up there. Oh, is that what happened, Murph? I clicked on the wrong one. He withdrew his guilty plea. Many meat docs were made public. I think Juice of Washco's got these docs. He had to sue for them. Yeah, I don't. I'll drink my water. All right, Gus. Yeah, I'm about to end this here. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. I didn't have nothing. It was a pretty loose tonight because it's kind of hard to fill in all the pieces of this Cold War yet because they haven't happened yet. But again, I don't think it's going to be a 30-year Cold War. I think it's going to be less than 3, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 year. But it will escalate. This phase 1, phase 2 trade deal, you can throw that out the window. We're right back at a trade war with them. Make no mistake. Now, it's only a matter of time before Trump announces new tariffs on China. They're going to impose sanctions on China. That's the next step, is to try to hurt them economically. And then it just will go from there. Well, welcome anyway, Daniel. Oh, so Daniel, I'll answer you now instead of writing email. So that was what I had planned, was just to have like a back and forth conversation, where, I'll show some material or something like that. And then you give me your interpretation and what you think. And then, I'll comment and give mine. But I think as long as you've got like a set of headphones that has a mic or a mic at all, I have a link for you that you can click on and it'll bring you into the live stream. And all you have to do is just talk into it, like talk into the mic. You don't really have to do anything past that. So, but I'll get a hold of you tomorrow. We'll run a test stream to see how that works. But I got your number and I'll send you a text tomorrow. So. Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it tonight. But I will get a hold of Daniel and see tomorrow night if Daniel and I can get this worked out. We're going to do I'm going to have him on as a guest, and I'm going to interview him because he has a really interesting knowledge base on the biology and like genealogical aspect of prior civilizations and forgotten histories and forgotten knowledge of maybe ancient civilizations. That's something I'm very passionate about. And but I sure as hell don't know a whole lot about it. I know what I know, but it seems like to me that Daniel would have a very good perspective on that, coming from an angle that I haven't considered. And one of the things that he'll bring up most likely is the overarm throw versus the underarm throw. And it's like a simple knowledge just when you think about it, like, well, that makes sense. But it just goes to show you that we don't think about things like that at that angle, like the difference between how we're able to throw overhand and our predecessors were not. The fact that we were able to kill at range is one of the reasons why we have survived. The fact that we've developed complex language and communication, verbal communication to one another. We're able to plan and devise. So it's a lot of stuff that I would love to, we're going to get into. It's going to be great. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to do a music outro tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. And you guys have a great night. So aloha, mahana pana.